How's it going, everybody? It's Ryan here, going to talk about why people that do low carb diets have low energy. And if you continue to follow a low carb diet, I have nothing against you. It's totally a lifestyle choice or a dieting method that is very effective for a lot of people. And I want to talk a little bit more about it. If you're trying to stay away from having low energy levels and lethargy, I can help you with sort of understanding why you might feel this way, and maybe some arguments for or against low carb diets. One thing I do want you to keep in mind is that a lot of my advice or my experience or a lot of what I'm telling you is based on experience. Also, I have a lot of nutrition education or experience and knowledge, but I don't have a formal education in nutritional science. I am studying for my precision nutrition certification, but I'm not going to pretend to be a science whiz. But I do know it fair enough to understand how it all works. So let's get into what I have written here. The four most common reasons why people have low energy on low carb diets are as follows. Number one, not fat adapted yet. Number two, not enough calories. Number three, dehydration and electrolyte imbalance, basically not enough sodium. And number four, not eating enough fat. So talking about number one first, which is not fat adapted. It typically takes about 7 to 10 days before your body is able to get used to using fat as energy. Keep in mind that if you're eating a traditional diet where you're eating 50 to 60 to 70% of your calories from carbohydrates, your body's used to having ample carbohydrates in its diet to make sure that your brain stays functioning. This is one of the biggest issues why people have low energies, because the brain does not produce its own sugar, or doesn't store its own sugar or carbohydrate. So it has to get it from the liver, has to get it from the rest of the body. And if there's an abrupt change in carbohydrate intake, it's going to have to figure out a way to save sugar for itself, the brain does, but also needs to rev up ketone bodies, basically fat burning. So it takes about 1 to 2 weeks before your body becomes fully adapted, or I guess you're going to say adapted to being used to basically a low carb diet. Now, don't confuse fat burning mode with weight loss, because it just means you're burning fat instead of carbs. You're a sugar burner or a fat burner. Some people are in between, but it just always kind of depends on what's in your diet. Number two, not enough calories. What makes low carb diets so effective at dieting is that it's the ability to put it this way, fat and protein are very satiating. They make it so that you stay full. You don't really even have to count calories. So much so that if it makes you not want to eat, right? So you eat protein, you eat vegetables, and you eat a little bit of fat. So in the charts I've listed here, which I should have up here, is that too high of protein, basically 250 grams a day. I just use these examples. Keep in mind that these examples are essentially a 2,500 calorie maintenance, which is essentially a 180 pound male who is moderately active, or a 150 pound male, a 150 pound female that's highly active. So a 180 pound moderately active male and a 150 pound highly active male. That's by examples, essentially what I use, using 1,500 calories as sort of kind of a big deficit. So if they're burning 2,500 calories, they're eating 1,000 calories less than maintenance. And most people who are not able to maintain the high protein intake with whole foods. So that's what happens. What happens is the body, when you follow these kind of diets, when it's too high in protein, this is essentially what happens when you start to get a headache or feel miserable. A lot of the time, you're not going to be able to finish 250 grams of protein. That's simply because it's just too filling. If you do manage to do it, it's because you slam down protein shakes and protein bars, but that in itself is very short-lived. You're still going to have a lot of problems, because one of the biggest things is that you're not getting enough calories, because a lot of the time what happens is, especially the popular low carb diets nowadays, tend to be more paleo style, clean eating, quotation marks, right? It's just what I'm trying to say is that when you eat paleo or eat clean eating, is it causes you to eat a lot of food that's very low in sodium. And not only are you eating low carb, you're also eating very, very low sodium. And if you're used to having lots of sodium, it's going to give you some issues with electrolytes, which brings me to the next thing, which is dehydration and electrolyte imbalance, not enough sodium. Have you ever felt lethargic or had brain fog? This is usually the reason why. It's because you are low in sodium and dehydrated. You might be drinking a ton of water, but you're still feeling like crap because you're not getting enough salt to retain the fluid. This is essentially the main thing that really affects how you feel abruptly. There's carbohydrates, which affect how you feel, and sodium will affect how you feel. So if you just, for example, went on a zero sodium diet for the next 2 days, which I do not recommend because it's not only is unhealthy, it's unsafe, you will feel ridiculously terrible, because sodium is basically what allows you to keep functioning. It's almost like copper wire for electrical current. Interesting story. Have you ever felt chubbier than you like, or I have, like, after holidays, Thanksgiving, or just maybe having a horrible weekend, right? Going out on vacation or something and stuffing your face. So you decide to tighten up your diet, get motivated, start doing cardio every day. And for those of you that know me, I don't do a ton of cardio. So if I do 5 days of cardio, 30 to 45 to 60 minutes per day, and then I restrict my calories, especially if I go to low carb, what's going to probably happen? I'm going to be in a caloric deficit. I'm going to lose weight, but I'm also going to lose a lot of sodium. And I'll get headaches throughout the day because I'm dieting so aggressively. Even though I have this ton of willpower because I'm full and satiated, I'm having issues with my electrolyte balance, which is giving me headaches and making me feel very, very tired. So, and number 4, not eating enough fat. Your body likes to run on carbs or fat. If it doesn't get enough, it will have to tap into protein and manufacture its own process. This process is known as gluconeogenesis. Essentially, your body is breaking down protein, turning it into sugar. The too high protein diet is an example of what can cause problems to people. You look at the percentages breakdown. The percentage breakdown is for too high protein is 65% protein, 23% fat, and 10% carbohydrates. This is what makes it so that you feel miserable because you don't have an immediate fuel source. You don't have carbs or fat readily available. And essentially, your body's trying to change protein, turn it into carbohydrate, or basically turn it into sugar, and it's not very efficient at it. Not enough fat will result in not enough ketones in bodies being used, and you're essentially eating a high-carb diet, but you're eating protein instead. That's why you may have heard why protein is basically the same as carbohydrates. I've had numerous headaches from eating too low-carb diets, and when my carbs are too low and I don't get enough fat, that's basically what causes the headache. If you want to stick to your low-carb diet and you don't want to crack, the best thing to do is basically scoop some coconut butter. It's kind of gross, but it does kind of work because the coconut butter sort of works like a carbohydrate because it's MCT oil. And those are the 4 main reasons why low-carb diets give you low energy. Just to briefly recap, 1, not fat adapted. Number 2, not enough calories. Number 3, dehydration, electrolyte imbalance, basically not enough sodium. And number 4, not eating enough fat. Now the question is a low-carb approach appropriate for you? If you work out and you train hard and you push yourself, ultra low carb diet is not a good idea in my opinion. However, if you are very sedentary and maybe you just do powerlifting and you do a lot of low rep work, but you don't take the time to do cardio and you don't do max reps work, then a low carb diet ultra low carb diet might be a good strategy for you if your goal is to lose weight. So keep that in mind when it comes to dieting. It's really individual based. For people that are very sedentary, a low carbohydrate diet is very effective because they have no desire to work out 7 days a week, 2 hours a day. Whereas people who work out only 3 days a week and have a sedentary job, I mean, if you don't eat a low carb diet, for a lot of people, you're just going to end up gaining weight. And again, this is individual based because if your metabolism is higher and you tolerate carbohydrates better, you're not going to really have this problem. And there's a good chance you won't be watching this video if you have one of those higher metabolisms. So anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave a comment if you have a question. And if you want me to kind of dive into kind of deeper detail about what I'm talking about, please feel free to leave a comment and I'll help you out. Thanks for watching.